my name is Victoria Sinfield and I am a Senior Solution Engineer for Tableau, which is the most awesome job because it just means I get to play around with Tableau and talk to my clients about all the fun technical things. And this is my cat, Simsy. He didn't come with me to Cyprus. He stayed behind in London, but he always makes an appearance in all my customer calls, so I felt like it'd be wrong for him not to make an appearance here. So, a little bit about me. So, I've been using Tableau for about 7 years. I started off on the client side. I used to work for Jaguar Land Rover. They're a big car manufacturer, just in case people don't know them. And that's kind of where I first found Tableau, fell in love with Tableau, and then eventually made my way to Tableau. And now I am very happy that I support the UK and I market, but also the Cypriot market. I actually grew up here, so this is a little bit like coming home for me. My family still lives here as well, so love being back. And for today's session, I'm going to be talking about Tableau and Python integration. Again, I started off in analytics, so I did a lot of Python work before I ever started with Tableau. So this has always been a topic that's really fascinated me. And I know that the very first question that people have is, well, I'm a data scientist, I can drop some sick models. Why would I ever want to integrate with Tableau? Right? I already have everything I need. Why do I care? Well, here's an answer for you. It's because as a data scientist, you go through all this really difficult process. You got to gather your data, clean your data, model your data, come up with a way to actually make those predictions, no overfitting. And then you give it to the business and they go, "Ooh, it's code. I'm scared. Oh, I don't want to use code. This is too complicated." So this is where Tableau comes in. It lets your data scientists give all these models to the business users and make them more effective. And that's the stuff that I'm going to focus on today. So for my first demo, I am going to be talking about the crime data set. So let's say I am a policewoman and I have a database. And in my database, I have something that looks like this. As soon as this loads. And what I've got is columns. So my node 1, these are user IDs, right? Not names, because anonymous. And I have user IDs of known criminals. Now, in my second column, I have known associates of those criminals, but we don't know if they're criminals. We just know they're people they have relationships with. And as a policewoman, I really want to investigate, are there any people who know multiple criminals because, well, there's a very high chance that they're dodgy. Now, what would be the best way of actually visualizing this data and looking at it? Ludmila knows. It's a network graph. That's right. So, exactly. So, how would we do that? Well, over here, I already have all of that Python code, all of that beautiful network X stuff that can create my network graph. And a data scientist has written it for me. But as a policewoman, I don't know how to operate this. So instead, what I can do is I can bring this as an operator, and I could actually click play. I've already added a parameter in here where I can select a particular crime type. So for example, white-collar crime is what I'm focusing on. And I can choose to run this flow to create a data source that I can then investigate and enrich with other data. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, where have I just come up with this example? Is this completely fake? And the answer is no. We do have certain clients who are doing this exact thing. They have analysts who are picking up data. In fact, a particular client that I'm thinking of, they are pulling image data. They're using Python to analyze those images, but then they're distributing it to a large number of people who are using prep flows to do further cleaning, enrichment, etc. So let's have a look at what I can do with this data. And this is going to be a little reminiscent of what we've already seen today, but how can we build a network graph? Well, I'm going to build in my X and my Y. Ooh, there we go. Let me just remove this for now. And now I can start seeing the clusters that my Python has generated. What we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate our X-axis. So for those of you who are saying that you don't understand network graphs earlier, hopefully by the end of this session, you're all going to be experts in network graphs, okay? So let's have a look. We're going to change this into circles, and we're going to change this into a line. And then I'm going to just bring in my keys and bring in my IDs. Now, let's make this a little bit prettier. And I'm going to change this into gray. And I'm going to just drop the opacity. Make this a bit nicer. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in the type on color. So this way, we're going to be able to see which ones are my original criminals and which ones are the people they know. So let me just change my colors to make them pretty. So purple sources, teal targets. Let's go. All right. Now I have my criminals and I have all the people they know. Now we immediately notice this large group of people who seem to know 2 criminals. And remember, what we can do is we can enrich this data, right? So this data set that I have brought from my Tableau prep, I can bring in the information about these criminals. I can get their names, their locations, and I can then start bringing them into my network. So I could, for example, bring in, let me change this to all. I can bring in my name and my surname, and then I can have a look. For example, over here, I have Aileen Hampton, who's one of my criminals. I have another person who's called Enzo Spence. And again, these aren't real names in case you guys go out looking for those people. It's all fake. And here's a bunch of people who are potentially doing something dodgy because they are friends with both of these known criminals. So back to the usual question. Why am I building this network graph in Tableau? Well, like I said, as a policewoman, I might not know how to use Python. I might not be able to go and, use Seaborn or Plotly, but I know how to do this. And then I can bring in my network analysis, clean it up a little bit so it looks a bit nicer. And what I can do is I can actually add all of the filters. And now when I'm looking at my European map of criminals, I can go, okay, looks like there's quite a few people over in France. Let's zoom in. Okay, now I can see who's built in France, which connections are built in France. And I could enrich this further. I could bring in data stories. I could bring in, other modeling. And all of this can be done directly in Tableau. All right, so at this point, you might be thinking, okay, this is all good. You've created an extract, but that's not live. What if I want to be analyzing my data as it's coming in? What can we do then? So we're going to move away from our crime data, and we are actually going to have a look at some reviews. I was going to say it's more positive, but it's usually not. We're usually focusing on our negative reviews. So let's say I'm running a business, and my business sells phones across Europe. And this is the 4 countries where they're being sold, and I'm monitoring the reviews that people are leaving for my phones. Well, this is the kind of data that I might end up with. But this isn't that useful because, okay, so I could add a filter here and I can have a look at each individual country, but realistically, I'd need to employ somebody who's going to sit there and read all of these reviews, tell me, is it good, is it bad? It's a lot of manual work. Well, not if you're a data scientist, it isn't, because we can actually start using some algorithms. So let's have a look at what kind of stuff we can do. I'm going to jump back into my data source and open up my customer reviews. So this is our new feature called Table Extensions, which allows you to bring your Python code as a data source. Now, I've already brought one in, but let's have a look at how we can do this from scratch. So I'm going to grab my new table extension and bring it in. As you can see, we can have 2 table extensions at the same time in the same model. Then this is the table that I am going to be using within my Python code, which has all of my reviews. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Python code. Now, I've already pre-written it because nobody wants to see me type for the next 10 minutes. And then I'm going to run apply. And hopefully, if the internet isn't too slow, this should only take a couple of seconds. If the internet is very slow, then this is going to take a bit longer. But let's talk a little bit about what is actually happening at this point. So Tableau is taking that data from the table, and it is actually sending this to our Python server. So the Python server is not based inside your Tableau server, it is a separate server. And the advantage of that is this isn't overloading your actual Python server, it's being processed elsewhere. Then Tableau returns all of these results, and this can be done live. In fact, this is done live. So now that I've done this, I've got my customer reviews, and I've actually got an output table, but this isn't currently visible because I need to set up my relationship, which is going to be ID to review ID. And now what you can see is I have built my model. This is my original reviews. This is my table extension where I was looking for keywords. I should have mentioned that's what I'm doing. I'm actually going to rename this into keywords. And then what I'm going to do is I also have the sentiment analysis, which is analyzing every single review and giving it a score. All right, so what can we do with that data? So I'm going to jump in and build everyone's favorite word cloud. So from my keywords, I can actually bring in the most popular keywords that appear within reviews. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to size them by how frequently they appear. And I'm also going to add the color based on that. And all we need to do here is then change this mark into text in order to get a beautiful word cloud. Now, remember, I'm the owner of this business. I have a look. Okay, a lot of this isn't that useful. Okay, great phone, smartphone, SIM card, makes sense. I'm selling phones. So what can we do? Not to worry. Let's jump into a little pre-built dashboard I already have. I've already built something that bins my sentiment scores. And now I'm also going to bring in my word cloud. And again, let's make this just a little bit nicer to look at. Awesome. So what am I going to do from here? Well, from here, I am just going to add some actions. Now, I can see that the majority of my reviews are coming from Spain. But to be honest, what I'm focused on is the negative reviews, right? Because I want to eliminate those. I want people to want to come back to my shop. So I'm just going to select negative. And now we see a very different picture because actually the majority of issues are coming from France, but also we can see that it's got a few ideas. I mean, stopped working, not really that useful, but customer service, touchscreen, definitely things that I can be looking into. And I can also zoom into France and actually say, okay, stop working, again, not that useful, but battery life, SIM card, those are the kind of things I can work on. But what about customer service? I noticed that was really large, but I couldn't really tell where that was coming from. So let's click on customer service. And now we can see the customer service is specifically really, really bad in Germany. So again, let's do a little recap of what we've done. We've built this Python model, which is analyzing our data. And the great thing is, you don't need a data scientist to be constantly running this model and updating this model. This model can be distributed to all of my regional managers. This could be connected to a live Twitter feed. We can be taking actions immediately on this data, and our data scientists can go off and build another phenomenal model and not get involved and bogged down in all of the little details when people are just trying to access their model. Okay. So, last little thing I wanted to show you. So, we have had a look at how we can use Python in prep to get an extract. We've looked at how we can use Python with an existing data table. But what if we just wanted to use Python on its own? We don't have a data source. We're just going to use Python. That is also possible with table extensions. So, let me show you. Over here, I have a flight analysis, which is coming from OpenSky API. So, for those of you guys that don't know, OpenSky is a free service. Well, there's a free tier. And what it does is it actually shows you every single plane that is currently in the sky right now and what their location is. And I have already pre-written the code. And over here, I've selected Mexico. So we can have a look and see some of the planes that are in Mexico. And for a bit of fun, I was thinking we could actually change the country and see if we can track where the planes are. And I really hope this works and there isn't going to be an issue, but I'm going to give it a go and I'm going to put in Cyprus. And hopefully we will be able to see every plane that's departed Cyprus recently and is still in the air. Now, let's have a look. There we go. We can see there are two planes, one near Kos and one flying over here near Macedonia. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, I hope this was useful for you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you. And again, thank you so much to the organizers. Thank you so much to Exness for sponsoring us. I hope that we can keep coming back here and doing more of these things. And I guess I will open the floor for questions.
So, as I understood, you use Python like an data importer and extract, and Tableau use Python output as a data source. But Is any other cases when I can use Python for maybe custom filtering or maybe some interface extensions or something like this?
I mean, when you're saying interface extensions, you're thinking you build a chart in Plotly and embed it in Tableau kind of thing?
Yes, something like this. For example, I can build like data science graph in Matplotlib or other Python library and import it into Tableau dashboard. I mean this.
Yes, you can do that because you can embed a web page and you can even make it actionable with URL links. However, it's not going to be as customizable as what we have in Tableau. So you've got to remember that if you want your business users who can't potentially use Matplotlib, or you might not want them to use, and like change your Matplotlib visualization, then they're going to be stuck with just what you've given them. And also there are going to be limits to that interactivity.
So it will looks like a picture inside the dashboard, right?
It will be like a web page.
Ah, web page. Okay.
Yeah. So, and you can actually do URL actions on web pages. So you could even make it slightly interactive, but it's not going to be this flexible.
I think next step will be JavaScript integration. Thank you. Any more question?
Yeah, thank you, Victoria, for this fascinating stuff. So my question is, when you talked about sentiment analysis and the keyword stuff, you said that the data was sent elsewhere.
Yeah.
For the analysis. So where exactly is the data sent?
So the actual flow looks something like this. So, or at least this is the way that I have seen it work with my data science teams. We used to get the data. We used to do a lot of analyzing of the data. And actually, one of the crucial things that Tableau also gets used at for data science is that initial exploration. When you are looking how to build a model, a lot of it can be done with visual analytics first before you start coming up with, which features to keep, how to model it. Now, then you train your model, and then you deploy that model on your Python server. Now, it's kind of up to you how you deploy the server. As always, you can have a virtual machine. You can have your own hardware. It can be air-gapped. It can be in public domain, whatever works for you, as long as Tableau can access it. And then we set up our Tableau to be able to connect to TabPy, which is your server. And then all the Python processing happens on that server. And then Tableau does the visualization bit the same way it would do with if you had a live connection to a database.
Hi, first of all, thanks for your presentation. I'm just curious if these table extensions support live connection. For example, we had this beautiful plain visualization. So if I upload it to server, is it possible to see it live? How much time does it take to refresh? Because Python code can be quite heavy.
Yep. So the Python code and table extensions are by their nature live. And so this is going to be a live connection to your server. So, assuming that it's an API that's live, then it's just going to mirror the API. In terms of it being quite heavy, I guess this is where the warning comes in, right? If you had a forecasting model that was taking 3 hours to run, well, that's probably when you're going to run your model, get the output, then give it to your users as an extract or, as a table in a database. If you're looking for something that is a little bit more efficient, so again, I had a client who was a bank, and they were one of those challenger banks. So one of the things that they did was they had actually worked out they had this model, it was pretty efficient, and it was analyzing the risks of giving out loans. And all of that was running real time. And they actually had people who were, in the shop, meeting clients, talking to the clients. They were filling things out in Tableau, and it was live calculating and giving it back. But of course, you'd want to be using a relatively efficient model for that kind of work. So every time I refresh that page, it's going to change the position of the planes. So hopefully we will see them move. If I open up this, and if I refresh this, so the same way you would do with normal Tableau, then hopefully you will see that they have, there we go, one's just taken off.
Any more questions?
Can I choose a version of Python in TabPy?
I believe so, yes, but I will double check for you.
Thank you for the very nice visualization with the planes. My question, more of a clarification. Initially, you said that the Python server is separate and it will run on your servers, but then you mentioned TabPy. So does that mean that we can have our own local Python servers that is dedicated to our workloads, or is it only Tableau ones?
Yeah, no, so that's correct. You can have a server that's dedicated to your Python work, and then TabPy is just, it's the connection to that server. So you can use that server for other Python processes. TabPy is just how we connect to that server.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.